Salve, Regina, Mater misericordiae. So too you also must be prepared, for it now you do not expect the Son of Man will come. Our Lord is coming at Christmas. This is Advent, means to come. Our Lord is coming, and we are called to prepare. The Church is asking us, instructing us, counseling us to prepare for the coming of our Lord. And so we have 28 days to prepare, 4 weeks to prepare for the coming of Jesus. It's like it's a lesser Lent. We have the Great Lent of preparing for the passion, death of our Lord and resurrection. That's 40 days. Advent used to be 40 days from the feast of St. Martin of Tours on November 11. That used to be the Lent in the Middle Ages. And so it was longer, but it's been shortened now because it's a lesser Lent, and it's more characterized by joy. Certainly, the Lent preparing for Easter is joyful as well, but it's mixed with sadness and sorrow, and knowing the great, enormous sufferings of our Lord. But this Lent, this lesser Lent, is characterized by joy, without any mixture of sorrow. And so our sacrifices, our mortifications should be more characterized by joy as well, without any sadness. And we're doing this with love for God, love for Jesus. And the best way to do that, of course, is always with Our Lady. She expected our Lord. She was longing to be able to hold our Lord in her arms on Christmas Day and for the rest of her, the childhood of our Lord. So she was longing, and so we unite ourselves to Our Lady, have the same sentiments and longing for the coming of Jesus. We need to immerse ourselves in Our Lady during this Advent season. Advent is very much a Marian season, a Marian time, a time to renew our consecration to Our Lady, our union with her, so that she can help us to prepare for Christmas, prepare for coming of Jesus in a way to please our Lord in the best way. So she's going to prepare us if we let her, if we give ourselves to her, we ask her to enlighten us on how we can please our Lord more. And we can certainly look into our own hearts and our life and examine our conscience and see what areas we need to improve on in our family life, in our religious life. How can I improve? We had 2 seasons in the Church's cycle to really knuckle down and really concentrate on reforming ourselves and converting more. These concentrated times, of course, we're always trying to improve and not offend our Lord, and offend Him less always. But this is a concentrated time in that, and also a time of special grace from God. God is going to give us special graces during the Advent season, as He does during Lent, to reform, to be more Christ-like, to offend Him less, and to be more pleasing to God. So let us count on that grace. Let us go to confession, that source of grace and strength and encouragement and joy and peace that God gives us on our path to a better life, a holy life. During this Advent season, we are focusing on our faults and our sinfulness and our bad habits, and trying to root them out as a lesser Lent. And so we look in our life. We look at, when you sin, what caused you to sin? Was it a situation, a person, or a thing, or a thought, or a conversation, or something that triggered off my sin? Let's reflect on that, and that cause, whatever the cause that was, let us get rid of it if it's possible, to not hang around that place or that thing, that person, not to get close to it, to avoid it, to stay away from every occasion to grave sin and occasion to venial sin, occasion to fault. Let us stay close to our Lord, stay close to those things that will help us to love God better. Let us to think more of Him. And this is where we ask Our Lady to enlighten us, to push us in the right direction and to steer us away from those things that will cause us to offend our Lord and cause us to be miserable, unhappy, living in in occasions of sin, which we may not even be aware of if we don't think about it and we don't reflect, we don't examine ourselves, examine our life, examine what I'm doing, and then turn to the sources of strength to change. We may see what we're doing wrong, what we can do better, habits we have, but not have the strength to overcome them because we don't pray enough, we don't go to confession enough, we don't receive our Lord enough with preparation and good thanksgiving. This time of Advent is like receiving the Holy Eucharist. The time of Lent is maybe like our death. We prepare for receiving Jesus in the Eucharist with confession, with praying before Mass, being mindful of Him and preparing and longing for our Lord in the Eucharist is like an Advent, I think, as we prepare for the beauty and the joy of Christmas and greeting the Christ child. And Lent, preparing for the Easter, is like a death, and like our Lord died, and we prepare for our death in that way. It's characterized by somewhat of sorrow. But this time is like, so when we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, let us remind us of this Advent time where we should always be preparing better and better, always being disposed and with a heart clean from sin, and a heart full of grace, full of Our Lady, full of good and holy thoughts and desires. So let us entrust all of this to Our Lady and realize that this Advent season is 4 weeks, starting today. So it's not, we don't want to just prepare a week before Christmas as we do, trying to cram in, trying to get our Christmas gifts bought, but we prepare early. We prepare now to spend 4 weeks of grace and 4 weeks of many beautiful acts of penance and giving to our Lord. As we give in Christmas, this is a time of giving to Jesus, giving little sacrifices to Him, giving our heart more to our Lord. The missionaries of charity, they have a little custom in their community, right before the altar, in front of their altar in their private chapel, they have a creche scene, and they have Jesus and Mary there with the crib, with no Christ child yet. And they make little sacrifices from the beginning of Advent, and they have these little sticks that they put there to represent all the sacrifices that they make on a daily basis. So they make sacrifices, and then for each sacrifice they put these little sticks there. So they make many sacrifices through the whole of Advent, and then there's a nice straw bed for the Christ child there, made up of the sacrifices of the sisters, and it was all a giving of love for the Christ child, for Jesus, a giving to God. So let us have that spirit of giving as well. Not so much a depriving ourselves or this sacrifice of suffering, but it's a giving of our Lord, of these gifts of sacrifice to Him, to please Him, and as an act of love for our Lord during all of this Advent season.
Fructum Christus